Now, this Stephen A. Smith and Jaylen Brown back and forth has been quite interesting because it's very nuanced and it touched based on a lot of different dynamics, as we're going to break this down layer by layer. From being a company man like Stephen A. Smith to the dynamics that play out with some of the NBA players who are intellectual, them clashing in with media members and not fitting into the typical "I'm just a stupid rich jock" role. Finally, to today's athlete kind of being a corporate shell, not having any opinions or own thoughts, and almost no personality. They sort of just become this universal figure, no different than a toy that has a string pulled on the back. And when you pull on it, the toy just repeats anything that the masses of people approve of. But again, we're going to break this down slow. And starting off with Stephen A. Smith and Jaylen Brown, there seems to be an issue with the NBA media members not quite understanding how to interact with some of the players who are kind of pseudo intellectuals. This has been playing out for most of the NBA's history, especially with the African American players. From them not understanding Kareem back in the day, to Mo Bamba making it well known that some NBA executives were questioning whether he was going to take the game as serious due to his intelligence. Same thing for Jaylen Brown. And to a degree, we've also seen this clash play out with Kyrie Irving when he was a special guest on First Take with Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith. The athlete that has his own opinions and is constantly seeking for information and understanding and stands on his ground. Media members get very uncomfortable with those type of players who just don't fit into the mold of being a rich, dumb jock. But as far as Jaylen Brown, he is highly gifted off the court as well as on the court. He was offered an internship at NASA when he was in college. He was taking master level courses while maintaining his GPA in his freshman year at Cal. He also played for the chess team, and he was fluent in Spanish and played multiple instruments. And to this day, he's still the youngest person to ever give a lecture at Harvard. So Jaylen Brown does not quite fit into that mold. And over time, we've seen it play out in real time with Jaylen Brown being a person who stands on his word. He doesn't really double back based off of peer pressure. As in the Kyrie Irving situation, people thought he made remarks defending Kyrie, but he clarified things but stood on his ground and never deleted his tweets. So company men like Stephen A. Smith, who want certain people to take the jab, and he's even stated out of his own mouth of how he goes to work thinking, how can he make more money for his bosses? A company man like that moves according to whoever's giving the most money can never really understand how it is to really stand on your square. But Stephen A. made some comments about Jaylen Brown's marketability. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
Brown, it's not so much that he's underrated. It's that he's just not liked because of his, quote, "I am better than you" attitude. He knows it. It's the same reason he is not.
Right there, I am better than you. It's not necessarily that. It's the insecurities that he make a lot of media members feel because he does not fit into that typical "I'm just a dumb jock." Even though media members are in awe of some of these athletes' ability on the court, intellectually, they always assume they have one up on the athlete. But when they run into guys like Kareem, Mo Bamba, Jaylen Brown, and to a degree, Kyrie Irving, a person who's always seeking knowledge, they become frustrated because all the mental gymnastics don't necessarily work on these guys, and they could see right through all the games that they're trying to play. For the most part, the media today, they're just a bunch of trolls. For the most part. The storytelling and journalism, that's just something that they hide behind. But today, the name of the game is to get clicks. And a lot of these athletes see right through it. But it's their job nowadays to kind of play these mental gymnastics to kind of make it seem like they're your friend, when in reality, they're just trying to go viral.
Brown, it's not so much that he's underrated. It's that he's just not liked because of his, quote, "I am better than you" attitude. He knows it. It's the same reason he is not as marketable as he should be. That's what an NBA source just sent me.
Now, Jaylen Brown responded directly to Stephen A. Smith on Twitter, asking him to name his sources. And this is what Stephen A. had to say.
First off, that's not happening. It's journalism, not revealing sources.
Once again, there goes the media members hiding behind that shield of quote-unquote journalism, when we all know they're in the business of going viral and clickbaiting.
Secondly, if you continue to watch the segment, I completely disagreed with them, as did Kendrick Perkins. The point we were actually discussing is how underappreciated you are and why that may be, which is why I read the quote. I even brought up how socially conscious you are and how that may not be liked, knowing you're a good brother. Also, that you're a $300 million man and you deserve it. But that doesn't mean naysayers don't get heard. That comes with the territory.
So Stephen A. hiding behind anonymous sources, and right after winning the NBA championship, Jaylen Brown during the parade had actually wore a shirt that says "State your anonymous sources." So he did a great troll job on Stephen A. Smith, and very unfortunate for sports media today. It's become the same theater as American politics. Everything's politicized. You're either the good guy or bad guy. You either take this player's side or that player's side. There's no nuances. It's either you're on team blue or you're on team red. Very similar to the way things play out in the streets with gangs. It's either you're on my side or you're the ops. Now the back and forth between these two continued on into the offseason as Kawhi Leonard exited Team USA due to an injury, and Woj had stated during the finals that Team USA was considering choosing Derek White in case Kawhi Leonard was a no-go, which ended up playing out. But Stephen A. Smith used this exact moment to troll Jaylen Brown. This is what he had to say.
Do y'all believe me now? Yo, Jaylen Brown, do I need to reveal my sources now? Is it not obvious now? How in the hell is a $300 million man now a champion and an NBA Finals MVP who's clearly a top 2 player on the Celtics and a top 15 player in the world, not chosen for Team USA? Because his teammate not named Tatum is selected before him? Come on, y'all.
Once again, Woj has stated during the NBA Finals that Team USA was already considering replacing Kawhi with Derek White. So Stephen A., the company man, is going out of his way to be petty. But it leaves you to wonder, what are some of those sources that he's referring to that he wasn't as marketable? Because Jaylen Brown, let's keep in mind, did have a tiff with Nike, as when they dropped Kyrie Irving, he then tweeted, "Since when does Nike ever care about ethics?" And this is where we got to get deeper into the rabbit hole of who's really influencing who gets on the Team USA roster. As we see, Joel Embiid was also on the team, aka representing Skechers. LeBron at almost age 40 is announced as a starter. That's a very key Nike asset. You see, the Olympics for Team USA basketball is really a big draw for the athletic companies. Nike, Adidas, Reebok, even New Balance. Why do you think Kawhi was out there when we all knew that he was a little bit shaky? He had to at least test it out and give it a go. I know Steve Ballmer didn't want him out there with that new stadium coming up, but him being part of New Balance, this is a great marketing opportunity for them to get their star out and for the world to see their products. So it's obvious it's not just about the best talent on Team USA. It's also about the marketability of the sponsors. Again, that's why guys like Kawhi, aka New Balance, Joel Embiid, aka Skechers, they're out there almost on one leg, trying to make sure that they're part of the showcase. And with the advent of social media, we now see these stars of when they make their travels to China during the summer to promote themselves. This was something that they were doing way back as far as Michael Jordan days, is that the American public never knew this. It was always a pilgrimage every summer for guys like Kobe, Michael Jordan, Tracy McGrady to make their way to China, not only in the behest of Nike, but also the NBA. As Adam Silver is always saying, this is a global game. He speaks at these press conferences, always mentioning the audience as a global audience. Not even 10 years ago, anytime he mentions the NBA audience, you assume that he's speaking about Americans. But now he actually says it in his phrasing, the global audience. Our audience members worldwide. You can see the direction that they are heading in with the key phrases he's using every press conference. The NBA is very good at that. You got to watch the way they word things. They put on a masterclass with that boy. But Jaylen having issues with Nike is going to be a huge deterrent on him ever getting on Team USA. He's even worn the Kobe Bryant sneakers this past Christmas without the Nike logo on it. So there are major influences on who gets on the team based off the sponsorships. As we've seen, Tyrese Halliburton was able to get a spot also over guys like Jalen Brunson. even though Tyrese Halliburton been struggling with injuries, which led to the Pacers getting eliminated in the playoffs. But going back to the Stephen A and Jaylen Brown issue, it's unveiling a couple of other nuances that we really didn't expect to get to. And another dynamic that Stephen A. Smith is always implying when it comes to Jaylen Brown is his outspokenness. With the league going global today, they want their athletes being almost a corporatized version of themselves. They don't really have any opinions. They just sort of play on the court. The personalities are kind of dimmed down a little bit. They don't want their personalities getting too out of hand like Ja Morant. They kind of want them in this tightrope of being in between being cool and hip, but not saying too much, and being sort of a universal figure like Michael Jordan and Barack Obama. Those guys are really trapped in their fame. They can't say too much because they have to appeal to the masses. And we've seen this exact scenario play out with the Drake and Kendrick Lamar beef. Drake throughout the years has steadily become that corporate figure. He's in a balancing act in between trying to stay relevant and hip, while at the same time he doesn't stand for anything. And that right there goes against the grain of hip hop. You have to stand on something. The whole culture was built off of standing on something. And the main catalyst in the Kendrick Lamar Drake beef was Kendrick pulling his card and making him stand on something. Who does he represent? Who does he stand for? Is he just a corporate shield? And this is where guys like LeBron James, who are kind of in the same balancing act, except he is from the culture, but at the same time, he has to be that universal figure. LeBron is in an interesting place within this beef because with him playing the social media game in order to stay relevant, he might be aligning himself a little bit too close to other figures who have large brands. And in Drake's last beef with Pusha T, after losing, Drake made his first appearance on LeBron James' show, The Shop, and it became a whole Nike propaganda tool because both of them are Nike assets to kind of slowly make the audience realize why Drake had to back out of the beef, why he still is the bigger man. And they sort of rolled out the red carpet for him to come back into the fold after that loss and go on the incredible run that we've seen him have on Scorpion with the hits, the tours. This has never happened in rap history ever, that someone had lost a beef and came back and was able to go on tours and make money and be marketable everywhere. We've never seen this before. Something is very inorganic about it. But here's a double-edged sword that LeBron and Drake being so transparent during this Nike rollout, I love to call it, that was on The Shop, is that the way Maverick Carter tried to narrate the story of Drake putting his energy into that new album, Scorpion, that he had, and coming back with songs insulting anyone that was against him, it ended up leaking out that this track was written by someone else, which was exactly what Pusha T was always accusing him of. And let's keep in mind, at this very exact moment, when Drake is explaining what's going on, LeBron James's brand will forever be attached to this false narration during this rap beef. Ooh, things get sticky when one big brand attaches his name to another one, and it's all under the umbrella of Nike. Things get real sticky. You guys check it out, and every once in a while, I'll check in.
Lift Yourself comes out with him just talking nonsense. This guy's trolling me. Yeah, he's this was like a manipulative, like, I want to break you thing. So I said, all right, I'm going to go back to distancing myself again. I know what this is. And then the first album drops. And of course, there's this song towards me you produced that's talking about writing.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I'm writing for you.
I was just there with you as friends, helping you, and now you're dissing me. So I'm like, man, this is dark.
This is evil shit.
This is dark. It made me realize, and actually I text Bron after
you guys spoke about it.
Well, it took me 4 days to really register what had happened.
Wow, he texts Bron. Do we really believe that? Once again, we have to understand the dynamics that are playing out here. Drake just lost a rap battle against Pusha T. And now in order to roll him back out in the public, because there's a lot of money invested in him through Nike, Apple Music at the time, Universal Music Group, other entities was heavily invested in him, Spotify, etc. So Nike having a piece of that investment of him just being popular and wearing their clothes and having their sneaker collabs or OVO merch associated with his brand, so much on the line with that. They rolled him out through their other Nike asset, LeBron James. So right here, this is a Nike rollout for Drake to come back in the fold. But they're going to paint this storyline. That's why LeBron James ties into all this. This is what happens when these guys are kind of in this balancing act of not only associating with other high-level celebrity brands, but also in the balancing act of trying to be cool, but trying to be universal figures. That's why you never see Michael Jordan say too much, or even Barack Obama. They're always towing that line down the middle.
And I text Bron, I said, I hope I don't let you down with my decision. And that was something I was really concerned about.
With your decision to do what, Drake?
To not do anything.
Notice how Maverick Carter is narrating everything. Yo, these Midwest guys, Rich Paul, Maverick Carter, LeBron James, they're fucking good with their propaganda machine.
To not do anything, to not respond.
I was more concerned about, like, you know, the people whose opinions I respect and the people who we thrive off competitive nature.
Of course.
But there was, you know, people love to say, like, rap purists and people who just love confrontation. They love to say, hey, man, there's no rules in this shit.
There goes Drake with that rap purist. He means the culture. There is no rap purist. It's just what's organic to the culture.
But there are fucking rules in this shit.
Of course.
And I'm gonna tell you something. It's like, I knew something was gonna come up about my kid. They had to add like the deadbeat thing to make it more appealing, which is fine. I understand that. And even that, I was like, okay. The mom and dad thing, whatever, you know.
Now, right here, this is very interesting that LeBron never asked Drake, why did you mention the man's wife, though? You answered back, but you pulled his wife's name into it. So now there are no rules. See, LeBron is from the culture. He grew up in Akron in unfortunate circumstances. I believe he missed school for about 60 to 90 days. So LeBron has been through it in his childhood. So he understands, like, hey, man, you cross the line, you mentioning people's families, especially their wives, it can go anywhere. But Drake, him being raised in Toronto with his mother, who's not really from that culture, she's a person from the Jewish faith. He was kind of raised in a middle-class neighborhood. He might not have that understanding, like, hey, Drake, this could have gone a completely different way. LeBron could have told him how it goes, but once again, this is a Nike rollout. They got to make this look good for Drake. But unfortunately, the song right here that they're going to talk about, it leaked. The reference track leaked that Drake did not write that shit.
You don't even know my family. It's like some, I'm gonna tell you, wishing death on my friend that has MS. I study rap battles for a living. Now, when you mention defenseless people who are sick in the hospital that passed away, that really sent me to a place where, you know, I just believed then and believe now that there's just a price that you have to pay for that. It's over. You're gonna get, someone's gonna fucking punch you in the fucking face. The shit's done, the event's over. I wanted to do other things. I didn't want to further your reputation or your career by rapping back at you and having this exchange. And that was it for me.
Drake texts you and like, am I letting you down?
Yeah, and what I tell you?
What did you say to him?
You said that I could never let you down.
I could never let you down, my fellow Nike brother. This is a good rollout, man. These texts might have never happened. That's the crazy thing. These texts could have never happened. They got script writers over there in Nike, man. These people got great branding and marketing people. They know how to roll this out. And a perfect example of it was the Ja Morant interview after his whole gun incident the first time around. They did the interview in the little clinic. It looked like, you know, he was staying at a hospital or whatever it was. And they try to spin the wheel like, oh, this is a mental health issue.
By the way, I
you're the greatest.
by the way, I did, by the way.
Yeah,
You wrote the song.
I did, and I said...
You heard Maverick Carter. You wrote the song. You wrote the song. Nike has great PR people that's around that know how to roll these things out. But again, they're dealing with a culture, a mega force like hip hop. You cannot sway the people as easily. This is a different culture to the core, and public opinion and sentiment, man, it weighs. It weighs heavily in this game.
Terrible things.
You wrote the song and never put it out.
Yeah, because I got home and I just listened back to it and I was like, man, this is not something.
This is the excuse right here of why Drake couldn't come back at Pusha T after Story added on. Once again, these guys are rolling out a certain storyline, but we don't even know if this is even true. And the way Maverick Carter just announced, like, oh, you wrote the song, it's possible that Drake didn't even write it.
I ever want to be remembered for, this is not even a place that I necessarily want to go. And to all the people who enjoy that, I tip my hat to you. By the way, hell of a chess move. The song, I thought it was trash, but the chess move was genius. Back against the wall, I either go all the way filthy or I fall back, and I have this sort of chink in my armor for the rest of time to a rap purist, which is fine, I can live with.
But at the end of the day, he can't go all the way because, once again, Drake, just like LeBron, they're playing the same game. They're sponsored by Nike with Drake and LeBron. Drake has Apple Music behind him, Universal Records, Spotify, all the streaming companies. There's a lot built into Drake. And make no mistake about it, Drake is the first hip hop artist that when he was coming up, streaming was also coming up at the same time. So he sort of built into that ecosystem. There has been no other rap artists whose careers were coming up at a time when streaming was kind of being built from the ground up. So his catalog plays a huge importance to streaming. As the music executive Larry Jackson had pointed out, Drake's catalog for streaming is worth more than the Beatles, Michael Jackson, and most of the music that was made in the 70s, 50s, and 60s. Because that core audience is not necessarily on streaming, but Drake's audience is. So his catalog for streaming is worth more than the previous eras. So this shows you the level of investment that is into Drake.
That, you know, I would much rather live with that than the things that I was about to, the research I did, the things that I was gonna say, and the places that I was gonna go, not only for him, but the other guy too, you know? And
the other guy meaning Kanye, but him talking like this, he cannot go there. Once again, Drake is a corporate shield. Once you sign a $400 million deal from Universal or $500 million, whatever the amount he got, he's built into that system. He has to be Universal. They're not putting money into a guy that's going to be talking about beefing, and these guys potentially could get killed in the streets. It's not working like that.
Now I feel pure, I'm good.
You feel good?
You know, yeah, and you know what I did? I took that energy, just like you said, I took that energy and I put it into me.
So right here, this is the part of the interview where they line him up and say, hey, what was all that energy you put into? What was that track? And this is where it's going to come back to bite him in the ass, because the exact track they're going to talk about right here, it's exactly what leaked out, that Drake did not write it. And this is exactly what Pusha T was talking about.
Not you. You don't get that.
You told me you didn't have certain songs on Scorpion until that.
I didn't have In My Feelings. I didn't have Nonstop. I didn't have.
Hey, what's one of our favorite songs, Mavi? Now.
Oh man, what's one of our favorite songs? LeBron is laying it up. Oh, LeBron, this shit gonna come back to bite you in the ass. You guys are hyping up a song he did not even write.
Sick of these niggas.
Oh my God.
I didn't have Mob Ties.
Oh, I'm sick of
Sick of these
them.
niggas.
I'll hire some help.
Yeah.
Get rid of you niggas.
Let's do it. It's a
Get
rap,
rid of
baby.
you. Yes, sir.
Oh man, Mob Ties. Oh, this is coming back to bite them, because during the Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef, it leaked out that he did not even write this. And shout out to Vori. Oh, he was straight swimming through this track. The whole cadence, the whole flow, and the fact that he mentioned Mob Ties, which is an affiliation Drake has in Houston. You could tell Vori wrote this track for Drake because he's talking about affiliation that he has nothing to do with, but Drake does.
Stick to these niggas, hey. Stick to these bitches. Hire a shooter. You ready these bitches. And I'm on my riches. I turn out the bitch. I turn out the bitch. It is what it is, sure. Black push, cause that Lambo moving fast. Watch your homie if he moving on his ass. And the rocket and that bitch ain't got no tag. Louis bags in exchange for body bags. Yeah. Stick to these niggas, hey. I'm sick of these bitches, huh? Sire shooter, you ready these bitches. Fuck what it was, hey. It is what it is, yeah. And I'm with the shits. It is what it is, and I'm so tired. Yeah. I fuck with a mob and I got ties. Yeah. They'll knock you off and pay their ties. Yeah. They want me gone, but don't know why. Yeah. It's too late for all that hubbub shit. I'm supposed to have you my brother shit. That's why I'm done giving in. That's why I made myself a man.
Damn. Oh, LeBron. This is why you can't tie yourself to guys too much, man. You don't know what they're really doing. We seen LeBron remove the P. Diddy photos or any affiliation he had with him, going to his parties right after all the accusations with P. Diddy came down. And now we're seeing a track with Vori leak out, mentioning Drake's mob ties. Oh, the whole cadence, the whole flow is written by someone else, but yet LeBron James on his Shop show was bigging up the track. Drake set it up. I put the energy not into him, but into my new tracks. But he's talking about tracks that he didn't even fucking write. And this is the conundrum that these guys are in when they play the social media games, the buddy games, all the PR departments at Nike, Apple, Spotify, Universal. They can't help these guys tap dance out of the public perception when things like this leak out. But again, this is a very nuanced dance that LeBron, Michael Jordan, Drake, Obama, they're all in. They got to be these universal figures while at the same time they got to stay relevant. But in this politicized media landscape, people tend to want you to stand for something, take a side. But sometimes when you do stand on your square, guys like Kyrie Irving and Jaylen Brown, we see the company men, media members like Stephen A. Smith make comments that these guys are not as marketable. Oh, and he has anonymous sources telling them that. But again, it's a double-edged sword. We see Drake kind of paying for it right now because he doesn't necessarily stand for anything. And the hip hop culture that he exists in, he's going to have to gain that acceptance to be relevant in that culture. And Kendrick Lamar has now put him in a spot where he has to create his own cadence without using the sounds of Atlanta, the West Coast. The OVO owl has actually been put into a cage where he might not even realize that he's in a cage. The same way figures like Obama and Michael Jordan are sort of in the same cage where they can't necessarily say too much. They can't be too opinionated. They got to be a universal figure. LeBron James, from time to time, he teeters around that. He bends too far left or he bends too far right, but he's still doing the balancing act, him being a major Nike asset. But in hip hop culture, unfortunately, you cannot toe that line. You got to stand for something. And that's the conundrum Drake finds himself in. But these are very interesting dynamics here at play. We've never really seen it on this type of level before. So many things mixed in, from the tech companies, social media, everything being so transparent, to the political theater in American politics is bleeding into sports, art, fashion, hip hop culture. The lines are completely blurred, man.